Hello and welcome to Soul Family Chat, where we envision new possibilities for a new Earth. I'm Guy Harvey, your host. And if you'd like to be notified of future shows, please hit the subscribe button below and check the notification bell. It's my great pleasure to welcome Mathew Morreale and Ana Lucia Alves. You're welcome. Welcome. Mathew is a director and an actor, and Ana Lucia is a producer and actor. And together they are the hearts and minds behind the Yoga Maya film production company, which is creating a new vision for the future of cinema. They are talking to us today from Tulum in Mexico, where they're managing Cine Tribe, a studio for independent and visionary filmmakers. And they manage all of these projects from a Vedic and yoga themed eco-village in Tulum. And there's a lot more I could say about them, but we'll put all that information in the description. I'd just like to welcome Matt and Ana Lucia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to correct one little detail, I write and direct, not act. I'm probably a terrible actor, but I write and direct.
Yes.
Okay.
And the rest was perfect. I just don't act.
Okay.
Or I probably do, but not on camera anyway.
Okay, great. Well, it's wonderful to have you here and from the beautiful Tulum. Can you tell us about Cine Tribe? What is Cine Tribe and what's the inspiration behind it?
Sure. So after many years working from London, we also went to Los Angeles, finding that the content and the movies we want to make was not mainstream, and it would not be accepted as, as a part of the movie industry. We decided that we will do it ourselves. So we went to Virginia in the US for a little moment, and then we decided that this area was a perfect area to develop something. And we came here more as of an accident, but we end up staying. And this is a beautiful place to create something fantastic. And we have a wonderful partner here. So we are creating this from this part.
Yeah, sometimes life throws up unexpected turns that looking back are obviously arranged and perfect.
Yes.
And ending up in this part of the world was one of those. But Tulum is a magical place. It's kind of like, it feels a little bit like the frontier, maybe in the United States in like, I don't know, the 1700s or something.
Yes.
It's like, the creative energy here is really high, and the possibilities are open. I think it has something to do with the fact that the Mayans here on this particular coast held out against the Spanish invasion in Mexico until like 1950s. So although the Spanish came and took Mexico in the 1500s, this coast remained kind of untouched. And so there's a magic here in this part of the world. It's a perfect place to begin a new community based on higher consciousness. And of course, media is an epic tool for aiding, higher consciousness and spreading it. So a number of things align to get us here.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes me think of artists' colonies of the old.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the people here is so sweet and relaxed in such a way where the priority is to be together. It's more family oriented. There's a lot of more tenderness. People smile very easily. They have like that little smile just about to appear. So it's very, very fulfilling place to be.
And what this place is attracting right now, you say like artist communities of old,
Yes.
I think, and it's very much like that. You find yourselves often sitting around tables talking about art or philosophy very naturally. It's like the first thing that kind of comes up here in many circles. It's attracting a lot of people like that because
Yes.
I think
And
I think the kind of Western lockdown on consciousness is not so strong here.
No.
And so people are gravitating here. And like us, it happens with a large percentage of the people. They come to visit. Ultimately, we came to visit. And then you find you develop a great love for the place just naturally. Artistic, creative people.
Yes.
But that's just the location.
Yes.
What we're doing in regards to film has been, decades in the making due to our attachment, our addiction to the cinematic arts,
Yeah.
which is a very powerful, I would personally say maybe the most powerful medium of communication we have currently.
This may be a bit obvious for some people. Can you tell us a little bit, what's wrong with the current paradigm in cinema and why? So why did you need to do something different?
Yes, for us, what we experience, for me personally, I think is the degradation of virtue and just, so much violence. For me, it just became too much, it's just, I guess, a little bit, as most people say, a little bit of everything. I disagree, but it's okay. But just too much violence, too much degradation of family values, and other things that I think that we can create content that is entertaining, that is fun to watch, but can bring a lot more love and kindness and tenderness and compassion and human understanding. The human condition is so beautiful. And we can actually create films and music that uplift society instead. So that for me is the most important thing.
For me, one of the biggest focuses in relation to cinema and what got us here doing this thing with Yoga Maya Films and Cine Tribe is that cinema is such an epic tool of not only communication, but it's cultural conditioning,
Yes.
as like culture creation almost. And unfortunately, mass media being in the hands of corporations who have agendas that are not, and for the benefit of the spirit soul, or,
for the benefit of consuming things you don't need, really.
Yeah, you could safely say profit might be their number one goal, but I think there's other goals that are not favorable to the human race. And the top psychologists, no doubt they're throwing immense resources at understanding how to use this incredible tool of media to achieve their ends, which, if you look around, it's not going great for the majority of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, understanding, we have George Lucas and Francis Coppola in interviews, I've seen them say that we understand maybe 5% of what cinema is. This means that it's like there is an incredible tool in media, and currently it's being used for harm. And I don't wish that to continue. I think we can become expert at using these tools to create, love and
Yes,
community and
totally.
reestablish values that cause us to flourish again. And
Exactly.
largely to revalue the individual. Two terms that I think are important are collectivism and individualism. And I think we're finding a huge push for the last 60 years on collectivism, which really favors only a few. And so I'm very much how we can use these mediums, and especially cinema, to reestablish that the individual is what's important. Individuals are important, and only by individuals being free and nourishing the individual can a collective truly be healthy. So there's an inherent flaw for our benefit in the collectivist corporate agenda coming through media. It only benefits, a few. Anyway,
yes.
that gets kind of too deep, maybe. But
no, it's great.
We wish to use cinema. I wish to continue to understand how deep it is. Understanding 5% means there is a lot there,
more.
To gather.
Yeah.
So to understand what it is, and then to use it for, spreading spiritual values and family values and recreating the culture that I think we're coming into naturally. I think there is a new wave happening, and your podcast is, evidence of it,
Just our contribution.
Yeah, there's some great points there. I mean, you're talking about it's like the social engineering. Somebody's trying to create society in a way that benefits them, and it's not necessarily in the benefit of the mass of the people. And we, particularly in cultural terms, just the invasion of American or Western culture through cinema into the rest of the world. And it's interesting that I don't know if you know this, but I think in the trade agreement, the TPP, whatever it was, one of the things that the Americans were pushing for is that they wanted the French to remove any barriers they had to American content, Hollywood content coming into France, because the French government subsidizes the French cinema industry, which means that you get a lot of favors French content. You can just see there's a strategy there for cultural takeover. And I mean, as my teacher said, it's like the colonialism or the imperialism today is not done with guns and guns and boats. It's done with information.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now that we come into a social engineering through data collection, that's also something very important. But to stay in point with Cine Tribe and what we are creating here is that we will be welcoming creative minds, masterminding, facilitating as much as we can for creation of beautiful movies, incredible music, and not in a competition mindset, but more in the flourishing, because the community here also, the international community here, is very curious about yoga. And so it became, I think, Tulum, it became famous for the wellness and the yoga, and people that we are associating here, they are very inclined for that understanding. So it's a wonderful place to gather and just create this beautiful community, an eco village. We have certain things with people here that they have ancestral seeds, just organic. I want to have at the eco village, we want to have a food boulevard that everybody contributes and eat from. Water is there because we have a cenote, 2 of them. And so
can you explain what a cenote is?
Yes, cenote is it's like a little lake. It's a beautiful pond, but the cenote apparently was created by a very long time ago. There was a shower of meteors in the area that create very big holes. So these big holes in the earth just gather up water, and there's a beautiful it's incredible. It's blue. It's a pure water, and that's why also there is a big push here to maintain the structure of the land. So everybody is trying, most of us is trying to be very friendly. They don't cut trees that are bigger than this. They go around them, A lot of hotels, even they build with the trees inside. It's really, really forward thinking, trying to stay, very close to Earth, respecting the planet. And so it's a wonderful thing. And everything kind of came together in a beautiful way where we can do the eco village, and some people live there, the creatives, and also Cine Tribe to receive people from outside, from America, from Canada, from Europe, all moving, makers, creative writers, to come and spend time with us and to mastermind something, more holistic.
To try and create an environment that favors the creative process, and to bring together people who are interested in establishing a better society. So to favor the creative process, to favor the individual, but at the same time as all this, to not shy away from, let's say, technology, or, it's like the studio.
Sure.
Currently we're running on solar power. Currently it's at like 70% build. So we're not in full operation yet, but we've got solar power. But to not shy away from technology, it's like to be able to provide and use world-class tools of media creation, but just to create an environment where the creative process, and by valuing the individual, we're able to pull out of people genuine content. This is one of my big gripes, I guess, is that content is motivated on a corporate level, whereas I'd rather see it motivated out of individuals. So you have, so we're trying to cultivate a community here where the individual is just experiencing life and translating that into creative works. There's no middleman or agenda, so for me, that's really the future, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Many people that were that I know from the past, and even we met right now, their complaint is that even when they are working at the highest level, a friend of mine is like a Marvel. Sorry about the dog. I don't know if you can hear it, but the neighbor has a little dog.
Yeah, that's fine.
So he works for Marvel, and he is the top, action direction stuntman, and he's frustrated because sometimes he can't express himself the way he wants to. A musician, also a composer, has spoken like that, and they don't want to fit in anymore into this dark agenda, so they can't wait to have this here and come. And I believe so many people will do that because it will be their artistry, their mind, and holistically they will be accepted, and there is a conversation. It's not like a top down where it's like, military style, where you do as I say and you can't contribute, because for an artist that is really hard. If you can't contribute, you can't flourish, you can't grow by making mistakes even, which is okay.
So currently in Hollywood, the agents, who are kind of doorkeepers, gatekeepers, the agents give their clients a list of subjects that, let's talk about writers, which is where the content originates. The writers are kind of given a list of what they're looking for. So the question is where's that list coming from, and why are we focused on this list? Why can't the writer be writing what inspires them in their heart? And then the other aspect is on the viewer side, on the the customer. I truly believe that the viewing audience for movies, I don't believe they want this many superhero movies, for example, or they're, it's like everything is militarized, or it's like
Or it's
So-
great
so-
material, which is, you know,
Yeah,
hammered
well,
out
yeah.
constantly.
So I had a sci-fi script that Ana got to some old friends of hers that have like a first look deal with Warner Brothers, and their comment was they love the script, but it's too intelligent. Warner Brothers doesn't want intelligent movies, and their task is just to feed the beast,
Yeah.
was their words. Their
Yeah.
term was, our task is just to
we
feed the beast. We like your script, but it's too intelligent. And so the industry as it currently exists will not allow
flourish.
genuine voices to come through. So
Very
rather than try to, you know, get our foot in the door and try and make something work, you know, which for many years we experienced the futility of that.
Yes.
Why not just put that aside and get busy doing what we want to do and cultivating individuals who want it? And I think the large majority of people actually would prefer it. And the viewing audience, I believe, is there for genuine artistic creation. We're not talking art movies that you might find
Yes.
in, you know, galleries and stuff.
No.
I think the audiences are there for genuine movies born out of the individual. I mean, the 70s was quite good for that. There was a lot of big budget personal movies made in the 70s. It was a great decade for cinema. The 90s also had that. And generally these waves of independent cinema that becomes mainstream are born out of the industry becoming so corporate that people can't take it anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
And
happens a
so
few
the
times.
70s was born out of that. You know, Easy Rider kicked off the idea that, oh my God, audiences are there to hear just what people have to say. The 90s was the same. And I think we're coming into territory now where another wave of independent voices
I think the biggest wave
are
is coming
desired.
now. Yeah.
And then maybe if we establish it strong enough, it won't be bought up by the corporations and stifled within 8 or 10 years, which is what happens every time.
Yes. You have
Well,
to
I think
stay
that,
strong.
I mean, something that we have now that we've never really had before is, you know, a global distribution system through the internet where
Sure.
if you create this kind of content, you have other avenues to get this content out to people,
Right.
rather than just going through the mainstream system.
Absolutely. And I believe the public, the audience is so much smarter now because they are thinking more for themselves. They're not feeling so good. And what we want as human beings is just a natural thing of existing in this platform, is that we want to feel good. So people are becoming smarter and saying, well, that didn't make me feel good, so there's something wrong with it. So they're looking for other things. A lot more people I see are abandoning social media, or worse, like if you don't abandon social media, but you are a influencer in a good way, you are removed. So
Yes.
people are becoming much smarter, and they are thinking, okay, there's something wrong here. I'm going to remove myself. And they're looking for great content. They want to watch movies. They want to be happy. So, you know, it's just a consequence also of the pressure that we've been under for quite some time now.
And I'd like to mention just very briefly that sometimes I hear people who may be aware of the culture creation element of media, but they think watching a little TV, you know, I watch some episodes of TV and it's like innocent. And I just like to point out that the same corporations are behind all of
Yes.
that. And not only corporations, but, you know, it's historically documented that organizations like the CIA and, you know, the Pentagon are involved in the creation of content that we see, not only in fictional scripted television and movies, but fake news and not the current term of fake news. They've kind of turned it around against people.
Like they do with everything.
You know,
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
all of this. Yes, yeah.
real
Suddenly
fake.
it's been turned around. You know, but all of this media coming out of major corporations. That's one of the terms I've adopted is unaffiliated. You know,
Yes.
we're interested in unaffiliated individuals. You know, individuals who are just experiencing life and speaking for themselves, have their own thoughts, original thoughts.
Yes.
Not that they have, you know, loaded themselves with television programs that may have come out of the Pentagon or the CIA, and they're repeating things as though their own thoughts.
Yeah.
But unaffiliated people who just are generating, you know, new thoughts, you know, and individual ideas, original ideas, I mean.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to mention TV because sometimes people think, you know,
It's okay.
you know,
just-
this TV series, it's really cool. But the thing is the top psychologists and understanding of psychology and the subconscious and how to work
manipulate.
with the, you know, the individual and their consciousness, subconscious. All of this is going in, and the majority of what happens with media is happening on the unconscious level. So you may think that you're just watching some little innocent thing. Meanwhile, you are being programmed with some stuff that's not working in your favor.
Sure.
So I'm not saying be fanatical, but definitely I think being more aware is a great thing that I would like to stress. More aware that when you watch something, it's not just, you know, smiles and laughter. It's like you've got to be aware of what you're putting in your subconscious because, you know,
Awareness.
the trend of The Secret, which came out of the new, what was it, the new thought movement of the 20s, which then comes from India, of the ancient Vedas, where we focus and what we focus on and what we load our subconscious with has an intimate connection with the reality that's being created in front of us.
Yes,
And
yes.
so I think that is the important connection for me, to understand that your subconscious is being loaded with ideas that are then being incorporated into the reality that you are creating.
And it's not your ideas. And I like to mention, because Mathew has really researched a lot and he created a website. It's called Cinema in the Psyche. He's going to write a book, cinemainthepsyche.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so these things are being explored there in some audios that, you know, if anybody wants to hear it, it's very interesting how bypassing your discerning ability, ideas are implanted in your subconscious mind that you are acting out of, but you're not aware. So awareness, and that's why meditation and you know, other things that we are also working on with like the healing arts and everything. It's like what you consume will practically consume you and then be expressed, and you might not even be aware of. It's like, it's, you know, it's a constant loop. So that's also something to look into.
So I tend to kind of be on that side of things. Ana tends to be more external in her, you know, networking, and you know, we have our particular skill sets and attractions.
This is you talking more than I have heard for a whole week.
That's a good thing. I mean, I really like that. I really like that Cine Tribe is both physical and virtual, that you've got this physical space in Tulum and people can come there and you can be together and have that mastermind. And then you have, it's also virtual, right? That Cine Tribe exists in the network, and people can network and
we are
play
building
together.
it now. We are 70% done with the physical venue. I'm hoping in the next 5 months it will be finished. So we will have also, what we want to do, it's very trendy thing here, is that we have one artist sometimes rolling. They stay a month or two, that, you know, depending on what they're doing, that we call resident artists. They do it here, and I find that very interesting. Not because not everybody will be able to pay for the stay, or, you know, we are expecting even Hollywood friends and Hollywood players to come and experience this, because they're craving also for this, so that they can come, they can write their scripts, they can question, they can learn. And parallel to this, that's why it's so, I think it's also wonderful, is that with the community itself, you can come here, for example, to write a book, or to write a script, or prepare something, and you can have in the same place a yoga class in the morning and a meditation class in the evening, or you can learn, you know, artistry from the Mayans directly, that they will come and teach you. Maybe you want to learn, I don't know, to do the beads thing that they do here, beautiful art, or just explore as well. Not only be putting out ideas, but also learning at the same time, because I believe learning is constant in and out thing. So you can come here and explore, not only produce your work, but also explore other people's talents and learn from them, and learn from the natives, and experience, you know, different rituals and beautiful indigenous culture that they have. And it's a really fantastic, you know, thing. And Ayurveda and holistic treatments, and, you know, my vegetarianism. I mean, we are going to promote so many good things. Just you can do the work and go home healthier, you know, why not?
Yeah,
Take
beautiful. Yes, I know we've talked before, Ana, and you have many Vedic and yogic teachers in the village, in the community. You mentioned to me that you have Vastu huts, which is sort of Vedic sacred architecture.
Sure.
You
sure.
have the Vastu bungalows.
That's part of the project. We don't have.
Yeah.
We don't have that yet, but it's coming. We are getting a very, very good interest. So the idea is, in the eco village, is what we call today the modern, you know, version of it is the feng shui, but that really comes from the Vastu culture of ancient India. And so everything is just like the Egyptian pyramids, you know, it's the directions that where you have your door and your things. So everything will be considered for your well-being, for enhancing your intelligence, for opening, you know, your mind to new things, and open your heart for more beautiful things.
It's really the future, because currently, I mean, the first chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, which is India's holy book, the beginning is basically, you are not this body. So this, to get out of the mindset that we're just biological chemical bodies, that we're so much more than that this really is just a vehicle. And even this vehicle is more complex than just the biology and the chemical. There's a subtle body. And the subtle body is probably holding the majority of our experience, actually, like in Bhagavad Gita, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego. So to create environments like Ana's speaking, that understand these deeper sciences of who we are, or certainly what tools we have in terms of the physical, the hard physical, and the subtle physical body that we have to use. You know, knowledge that understands these things and incorporates health on a much deeper level. It's not just treating the symptom as it emerges on the hard physical body, but there's so much more before that in the subtle plane, and
the emotional body as well.
And so to create environments, I think, is partly what you're mentioning. Vastu probably has a big effect on the subtle body. And the same thing in cinema. You know, for me, it overlaps into cinema. You know, you have Bernardo Bertolucci, who said that the camera can only pick up what's in front of it. It actually picks up everything around it. And so there is a new consciousness that I think is required moving forward that incorporates the subtle platform, which to date is not accepted, certainly scientifically. And everybody's being pushed to this purely material understanding of nature, that if you can't, everything's got to be empirically based. But the fact is we've got to open up to the fact that there are other levels of being, there are other levels to ourselves, and these are highly important. They're being, you know, like even our communication between the three of us is happening not only chemically, biologically, you know, auditory. It's like there is the subtle platform.
Sure.
So I think Vastu, you know, is taking that into account. So it's not, see, because in this empirical mindset of today, if you say Vastu in some crowds, or if any of this, it might sound like new agey, airy fairy kind of stuff. But the fact is we are much grander than we think. And to take those things into account as we move forward, to be aware of them, and to start to live a life and arrange our life and our environment to take those things into account. I believe that's the new time that's coming. I believe that's what's required of us.
The new era. We've been talking about this new era because I feel that a lot of, I can say muffling, it's almost like human potential has been muffled from a very young age, just by observing, for example, a 5-year or 4-year-old kid that hasn't been drugged, because unfortunately there's this huge thing of like, you know, if hyperactive, it's like, okay, there might be some extreme cases and rare, but kids that are just active because they love life, they're like discovering this world, and they're just happy and smiling, and they want, you know, and the system in society came to a halt where you put your 5-year-old sitting on a chair and expected to be there, especially if he had, like my son, he had stimulation from a very early age of curiosity and things like that. And then at 10 years old, with education, they become muffled. It's like this incredible being full of life and wonder, and they are curious and they want to know, and they're passionate and they're loving. They're like depressed. I mean, it's shocking.
Schooling, like
So,
a school of fish. Also,
yeah.
there's a great person called John Taylor Gatto, who goes into the history of schooling.
Amazing.
Great person to look up if anyone's interested in the history of schooling and what it was designed to do.
Yes, amazing. So, you know, the environment that we are creating here, it's not ready, but practically there. It's where the individual, the human being, will be not only accepted and loved, but also will be able to be themselves, to flourish, to question, to learn, to study, to produce materials, to produce movies, music, and everything that we are, you know, just will make us happy. You know, I think what I remember, I think it was John Lennon that somebody asked him in school, like, what you want to do when you grow up? Apparently he says, I want to be happy. So people were thinking, I want to be a doctor, I want to be, you know, this. It's like, I just want to be happy. So what do you need to be happy? You know, a good health, something to do, someone to love, apparently. So well, I think that's the basics.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, go.
Because you've invoked the Beatles, some thoughts came to me about the Beatles. As you know, the Beatles were in Rishikesh with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for some time, and Across the Universe, the George Harrison song, he composed that while he was there in the ashram with Maharishi. And I just started thinking about what you're doing and thinking about the Beatles and Mike Love and Mia Farrow, the different people that were with Maharishi in those days, that there was an explosion of creativity that came after that. I mean, I think a lot of people credit it all to the, psychotropic substances that they were taking, but I think that's narrowed it down to what really happened. I mean, that those artists went on an exploration into their inner consciousness, and an amazing creativity came out of that. Just amazing songs. And David Lynch, the film director, he credits meditation, and he's very familiar with the Vedas, and he credits meditation as enabling him to find the big ideas. He wrote a book called Catching the Big Fish, that if you really want the really creative ideas, then you have to go deep within your own consciousness. And that's where the really creative ideas come from. And I think it's marvelous that you're combining this yoga and Vedic principles with the creative endeavors in media and film all together in one place. Plus you're throwing in the beautiful nature and the local traditions and culture and the Mayan tradition. You're putting so many different fertilizers there into one pot. I think it's just going to explode.
Yes, let's hope it comes together as envisioned. To grab that deep fish, that great big creative idea, that's why there's a big focus with us to create a studio in a beautiful natural environment with a collective of like-minded individuals, where you have world-class tools, but the environment is conducive to catching that deep fish.
Yes.
So I think that's currently what we don't see in, mainstream media in Hollywood, for example, or in the studios there. So don't sacrifice on the world-class tools, because we want to create world-class media.
Yes.
But what needs to be transformed is to allow the individual and the creative process to flourish. And so our hope is to really make a success out of creating that environment here.
Yes.
And, I think people want it, and they want what will come out of it too.
Absolutely. What I wanted to contribute also, I just came to my mind, is simple things as walking bare feet in nature. So apparently physically, on your physical body, if you are too long cut from feeling the earth itself, you start having a little bit of inflammation in the physical body, and that leads to a lot of unhealthy, your health just suffers. So and then I found it funny, because I grew up in Brazil, and being barefoot was like, a thing that you do. Is like, you get home, you take your shoes off, and you go run in the nature, and you go climb a tree and see the birds. And then in 30 years forward, I am reading this article about earthing. And it's this new thing. It's like earthing is this like scientific guy who discovered that if you put your feet on the ground, and you need a device to do the earthing, and they made a business out of it. So yes, it's all nice and dandy, but these are just basic principles.
It's crazy that science taking credit when all they're doing is labeling things that already exist.
Exactly. So for
people have created shoes. People have created shoes that. People have created shoes that imitate walking barefoot. I mean, I see this as practical, because people have to be in the city and so forth. But it's a bit of a joke. You create a shoe that imitates walking in barefoot, where you can just walk in barefoot.
Oh yeah, I saw the other day. So this is the environment we are creating here, is that yes, you will, when you go to the tower, because there's a beautiful tower, when you go to do your media thing, and then you can spend your time, walk barefoot, swim in the cenote, take some sun, all in the same place, and then you go to work, and then you are like hooked to the internet. it's a whole setup that you can do your work in the best condition, but also you maintain contact with real life, with real people, delicious food, and your whole system, your whole body can work properly, because we've been cut off from so many things in modern life.
When you say cut off, one of the things it reminds me of is when we were in India, it was thought of as lower class to speak their native language.
Yes.
We met many people who were speaking English and looked down on the other native Indian-born people speaking Hindi. And that is serious cutting off. You know, it's like people are, I don't know why, and I don't know why, because, you know, coming from America, I can certainly say that they're not, by embracing American culture, if that is even an applicable term, it's not going to go well for them. You know, it's like we were in India and talking about the subtle platform again.
Wow.
The subtle platform was so much more peaceful. You know, people were in general so much more peaceful internally, although externally it's quite chaotic.
They're blissful, though.
And then we flew from, you know, staying in Vrindavan, the birthplace of Krishna, and then we fly to LA. And LA, externally, everything is like perfect. But people seem to be freaking out internally. Like, no one can, you know, find any peace, you know?
Yeah.
So this cutting off from your natural cultures around the world, you know, ultimately, I believe we're all spirit souls, so we all have a identical
Makeup.
native kind of spiritual culture. But where you're born, I think, has a, or where you're born, where you know, grow up and stuff, there's a lot of value there, I believe, you know.
Yes.
You know, I don't think we should be wholesale cutting off from history to adopt what corporate America is spreading. Or, you know,
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know how I got there. Forgive me.
No, it's an interesting thread. In the Vedas, I think they say that in the Vedic times, traveling was considered a curse. Actually, inauspicious to travel.
Right?
The most auspicious thing to do is to be as close to your birthplace as possible, and that's where the laws of nature are most lively. And you were talking about language. I was just thinking the other day. I studied African studies for a while. I mean, there are 1,600 to 2,500 different languages in Africa alone. And I think sometimes what makes me sad living in America is just this feeling that this is the culture, this is the world, this is the way it is here, is how it is everywhere. I mean, 2,600, you know, over 1,600 to 2,500 different languages and cultures, and just the richness and the vastness of that is just mind-blowing. And we've sort of narrowed everything down to this monoculture.
And then I remember reading about, but also it's kind of intuitive as you study, there is a correlation between the expansiveness of one's language and vocabulary and their experience. So as the vocabulary or the language simplifies, our ability to experience actually becomes narrower.
Absolutely.
So as the language is decimated, so is our ability to access a greater variety of thoughts,
emotions,
and experiences. So it's actually quite dangerous. But these kind of topics, you know, there's this idea of incrementalism. So it's like, I don't know, is it if you put a frog in water and put it on the stove, they don't realize until it's too late? I guess that's an example of incrementalism.
Yes.
So
they will be cooked and without
people in general were not aware because of the small incremental steps we're not aware of the narrowing of our lives and our experience and the decimation of value and culture. And it's happening kind of too gradually for us to really understand it, but it's vital because we'll end up being the frog in boiled water.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, go ahead.
Well, I like that you brought up this principle of incrementalism, and I think that it also works the other way, and that's what I like what you're doing, and this is what this show is about, exploring new possibilities for New Earth, because everything that we do incrementally in the direction of being more aligned with nature is also having the reverse effect, and it's building that. And I think that there's some people feel like, you know, what's the bother, because it's just, you know, it's just a drop in the bucket. I mean, how many eco-village, if you look at the total number of people in the world living in eco-villages, it's tiny, but every eco-village is a model for other people to follow. It's just, it's an incremental step in the direction that we want the whole of humanity to go in. And that's why I'm very keen on hearing about communities, because it is the future. And if no one models it, no one's going to know how to do it. A lot of my audiences are younger people on Twitter, and I know they're thrilled when they hear about people living in eco villages and living off the grid, and most of them want out of the city.
Yes, including myself.
And what you're doing is you're creating a vision of possibilities for these people.
So I'd like to share a lesson I learned some months ago, because we started a mastermind group virtually online to bring together people to to try and work towards creating a better industry, right? For example, media. And it lasted a few months and broke down. But one of the lessons I learned that's so important, I think, for communities moving forward and just for coexistence, we have to better appreciate the individual. Individualism is vital. And one of the great elements of it is to appreciate each other, even with differences. So we're kind of in a time where differences are causing fractures, but to embrace being an individual, you have to allow others to be individuals too. And so a great lesson I learned, and one of the things that caused the breakdown, is when there's a difference of opinion, it's okay. Actually, that's what individuals do. Individuals means that we differ in many respects. And so I think that the future really involves acceptance and coexisting with people who may not agree with you, but it's okay. They don't have to. What's important is that you are flourishing with what's true for you in your heart. And it's okay as long as nobody's hurting each other.
Yes.
It's not a threat that other people may think differently. Yeah. So I didn't really word that right, because I've never said this openly, but
it's tolerance also. What happened, it was very important, and it was a great experience, because I think that, not in a bad way to tolerate, obnoxious people or some things. I mean, some things are just like, it's just not a no, but to tolerate maybe other person's difficulties, and, develop more our skills of tolerance and compassion and understanding, and a person can disagree with you today or yourself, and then looking deeper, and that's a hashtag that I used a lot, look deeper, is that you will understand. There's this beautiful story I'll share very briefly. There was they shared this with me in London sometime. Apparently there was this man with 3 kids in a train, and the kids are just like havoc and screaming and breaking everything, and the father is just like looking in the emptiness and like, not doing anything. So society in itself, it's like, you have to control everything and control your kids. So somebody said, don't you see your children? They're crazy, they're making so much noise, breaking things, they're upset, they're upsetting everybody in the train. And he says, oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't notice, we just come from their mother's funeral. So you don't know. Yeah. They should say, we don't know what just happened just before they met you, just before they encountered you in their life. So to have that openness and that from the heart, and to say, okay, you can ask, you can say, what's wrong? Is there anything I can do? And more this relationship where tolerance and compassion. And I believe that the social media has created unknowingly people, they don't know they're radicals. They don't know. They are just full-on radicals on their opinion, and they don't even know they're radicals.
There's an idea that people should think like you. People, like, I think the false ego has this thing that they're just looking for confirmation that, so there's this idea that ideologically I need people to think like me. And I think that has to be done away with, because to value the individual and to flourish as an individual and to be in a community of valuing individuals, it's not required that people think, even believe what you believe. It's okay. And it's okay. I think that's what I'm trying to also say. It's okay. It doesn't mean that there needs to be a breakdown of a relationship or a breakdown of a community. I think differences should be valued, because that is the opposite of collectivism or, communism or tyranny. It's like we have to get to a point where it's okay to be an individual, and it's okay for you to be an individual too, and we can coexist happily.
Yeah. Basically, for me, is also, as long as there are constant improvement and in oneself. For me, for example, I like to learn and to understand and improve myself because it makes me happy. But also, as long as there is loving exchanges, as long as people respect one another and they have loving exchanges, that is for me what will work. It's just somehow figure out, like, how can we just exchange things, services, ideas in a loving way. It's not that difficult, really. It's just been sidelined, I think, in the past 20 years.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I found that it's always possible with most people to find something that you have in common with them, that you can meet around and connect on the heart level. I mean, an easy one, for example, is to ask people, how are your kids? How are your children doing? Because most people that have children, there's that, everybody, regardless of their political views, philosophical views, ideological views, spiritual views, almost everyone has children, has loved ones, their children, it's something they like to talk about. So that's something that you can always connect with people with. But there's lots of other things. I may have told the story before, but I go out into the rural countryside here quite a bit. I live in Iowa, and people live in a little bit of a different context that I live in. People hunt. I'm mostly vegetarian, but I can talk to them about the woods. They love the woods. I love the woods. And when I get on that level with them talking about the woods, we feel this connection, and the flow of love is there. The heart value is there. So there's always something usually that you can find with something. And I think the thing with social media, I mean, I'm really glad that I'm mostly out of Facebook right now, is it's just all focused on arguing over these, collective political ideologies. And then you forget that somebody's, a master woodworker, or somebody's an artist, or somebody's dealing with disability and they've overcome this, and that they're creating this. Or, I mean, people are just doing all these amazing things, but it's all just been homogenized into this. You're a, you're a conservative, you're a liberal, and then this is defining everybody, and it's just a reduction. It's reductionism.
It's another element of reductionism. Yeah. That's why I'm very much interested in, like, okay, so that's how you feel politically, great. But what are you doing? What are you interested in? What's your craft? It's like, it's fine. So you believe that, I believe this. Who cares? What's really interesting going on in your life? Yeah.
We'll put all of your links in the description to Maya Films, Yoga. I'm sorry, Yoga Maya Films, and Cine Tribe. And just to clarify, Yoga Maya Films, that's your own production company. That's your projects, right? And then Cine Tribe is more the collective mastermind.
Yes. Yoga Maya is kind of the production company that is holding the films that we're developing.
Yes.
About 8 to 10 films.
We are editing now, actually, a movie, a feature film called Time to Die. It's in the website. It's a very interesting concept, beautiful movie about, humanity and how beautiful just the, like you said, the everyday things, like just walking in the woods or walking and talking with someone, having a real connection. That's the movie.
It's set within the context of a small group of people who are depopulating the earth, and it's like the last 24 hours, and it's a number of people sharing their thoughts, with 24 hours to go. And so the essence of the movie is, like Ana said, it's to understand the great loss that would bring about, and the great value of just life and people, and just regular life, and the experiences they're going through, and the joys and sorrows even. So that's Time to Die. There's a trailer online for that. We're editing that.
Yeah. And then Cine Tribe is the bigger idea, where it's a media studio in the jungle here next to Tulum, where we will not only create our movies, but also help produce, create other movies. We'll have the facilities for people already funded that wants to create their movies in an environment like this. So it's
community.
And then the community, the eco village aside, where we will have the bungalows and
because in the end, we're moving into a time that's requiring that like-minded people come together, and
in person.
Also, mainly in person would be great. So community is a huge element, I think, moving forward.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
To be present.
And that's part of Cine Tribe.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we know that when we come together in a group with a high intention or positive intention, really good things happen
for everyone.
And I think when we come together, when we do like virtual masterminds on Zoom and things like that, that's powerful. It's more powerful than just texting and writing. But when we come together in the physical, it's even more powerful. But you do have the mastermind, right? The Cine Tribe mastermind, and people can join that.
We still have it. It's from Cine Tribe website, cinetribe.club. You can see the mastermind. There's a whole page there about it, and we look forward to communicating with anybody who feels inclined to participate in any way.
Great. So the Cine Tribe website, that's the best way to get in touch.
Cinetribe.club.
Yes, that's the best way. Everything, you can find everything from there.
Okay, great. Are there any other projects you want to that you're working on that you'd like to share before we go? I mean, that was my last question, and it already came up about what are you working on right now, and what are your projects? You talked about the film. And,
yeah. Well, Time to Die, we already discussed, but for me, what is most important now is to finish the venue here, Cine Tribe Studios. And so that's my personal baby in a way, is to find the way to finish the venue, to start receiving everybody and communicating. And I think for you, you were like in your mastermind, but then we stopped that for momentarily, and you were writing as well. You're writing a script.
Yeah, I'm writing a script, but that's a personal thing. Yeah, writing scripts, developing ideas.
Yes, that's what we do most of
And
the
trying
time.
to gather people who are like-minded, because there's great encouragement and value in these exchanges between people. That's the idea with the mastermind as well.
Absolutely. So
well, this has just been a thrilling conversation for me. I could spend hours with you guys just talking about all of these things. And
I love these topics.
yeah.
But when you have any time, you can visit. It would be wonderful when you can start traveling again.
Yes, I would love to, and I'd love to have you back on the show again, maybe a little time in the future, and see how your project is doing.
Thank you.
I mean, what you're creating is this space. You've created this space where such talks can happen. So we're very grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Great. So thank you, Matt, and thank you, Ana Lucia. There's going to be a lot of links in the description, because these guys have got a lot of great projects. And I'd like to put the link to the little short video you have of Cine Tribe, so people can see how beautiful it is there. And
a little teaser.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was really a blessing to have you here today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.